Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of I Am Christina DiArcangelo. And with me today is my friend, Sylvia Pearlman. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for joining us today.
So my pleasure. So my pleasure.
I'm so glad to have you here today because, as you know, I always on my show try to find some commonality between my guest and myself to show the others that are either viewing or listening to us that we are the same. So Sylvia and I have a lot of things in common. Number one, I feel, in my opinion, is the fact that we're both moms. And she has a son just like I do, but her son is a little bit older than my son.
Well, you're kind.
I don't want to, allude to anything.
I love being my age. Love it.
Well, you don't look it, let me tell you, at all. And also, Sylvia is a big backer of medical cannabis as a medical form of treatment in patients that have various therapeutic issues that might be beneficial for them to try medical cannabis for. And so Sylvia has been an educator and an advocate for a number of years. So this is why I wanted to have you on today, was to talk about some of, what we believe to be true relational to medical cannabis as a treatment, almost similarly to what we started talking about before we were recording. And that's why I paused us so that we could bring it on air about what we were talking about so we wouldn't have to repeat ourselves.
Perfect. You got it, Christina.
So why don't you kick it off, Sylvia? I'll stop talking and you can start. And why don't you tell everybody what you've been doing?
Well, hello, everybody. And I'm so grateful to be talking to the Christina. And what she does is so freaking amazing. I just have a small little niche of people, and I basically talk to baby boomers. I am proud to be 64 and a half. And I moved to Colorado to lobby, to educate, to change the drug test. My goodness, because just because you engage in your medicine on a Thursday morning does not mean you're incapable to go to work on a Monday morning. So I've been on the state stairs lobbying to do a different kind of cognizant test every morning, if you could put together a puzzle or what have you. And a lot of companies have removed cannabis from the drug screen. And that's a good thing to know. We're not near where we need to be, but it's moving forward. So I just stick with my friends and just say, girlfriend, get off of your Valium to go to sleep. Girls, get off of your Ambien to go to sleep. Now, I tell you, I used to be a pharmaceutical rep. And that, I think I'm all back because I know that. But I tell you what, medicines, I can't go as far as to say can be replaced, but what cannabis can do with the mixture of terpenes and cannabinoids, my little humble opinion, it'll be any minute now that pharmacies, compounding pharmacies, can concoct the unique terpenes and cannabinoids specifically for you, much like they do hormones today. Mm-hmm. So you'll say, gosh, that lady was right. And that's going to happen, in my humble opinion. There are CME continuing medical education for doctors now available for cannabis. And it's not such a scary word anymore. And yes, there are stoners out there, but it's way more safer than drunks. Not that I don't want to go there.
I would argue, what I would argue? To their benefit, the people that are more of recreational smokers. So they get the stigmatization of stoners and comments like that, right? because I'm sure when you came into this industry and you came out of the closet and said, hey, I'm working in medical cannabis, people assumed that you were one of those, a stoner. I would argue that these people that are taking cannabis recreationally are taking it because there is something wrong therapeutically with them, whether it be a little bit of anxiety, and this helps their anxiety, whether it be some back pain that they happen to have because of something that happened in their lifetime, 10, 15 years prior. So even those people that are using it recreationally, I would say the reason why they're using it, and maybe they just don't articulate it in that way because they don't feel comfortable doing that, is because they have something wrong with them therapeutically. And this is helping them rather than getting on opiates or something otherwise.
Totally concur, Christina. Absolutely. And a lot of people are closet cannabis users because of the stigma. And that's unfortunate. However, I do see it changing little by little. Pharmaceutical drugs do have their place. They do. I'm not saying that they don't. However, there are a lot of things, like I said, with the mixture of the correct terpenes and cannabinoids that can take the place of, say, Ambien or sleeping aids such as that. Migraine headaches. You could go online, go to Project CBD or to Christina's site, and you will see. It's just a matter of education.
Yeah, I think education is huge. And, talking to a lot of the diabetic neuropathy patients personally, I've been on the DN study that I'm working on. That's the biotech study. So I've been talking to patients through the nonprofit Affinity Patient Advocacy. And when I talk to these patients, I'm finding that a lot of these patients, I'm educating them as to what the endocannabinoid system is. They don't even understand that they have an endocannabinoid system, that everybody has an endocannabinoid system. And that's because it's only till recently, physicians are now having to study the endocannabinoid system. Prior to that, they weren't. So these physicians are not talking to these patients about endocannabinoid systems. And so when these patients come up against people like us, where we're trying to explain to them that, actually this study drug, we believe, although not making a claim, that this can help your endocannabinoid system, and the traditional pharma product that you're taking currently for your diabetic neuropathy will not help your endocannabinoid system. It seems to me that this could be a winner-winner for you, right? Because your endocannabinoid system is impaired because you have diabetic neuropathy as a result of being diagnosed with diabetes. That's your first line therapeutic issue.
Spot on. And, you're right. It is new. It's only been discovered with Dr. Mechoulam out of Israel in the 90s. So it is fairly new. Whereas other things have been around since the caveman. And so this is newly studied. And it's amazing to me that you are jumping into this with clinical trials to really own in on the disease state that you're doing neuropathy right now, which is so big. And I'm all about the baby boomers, and because perhaps that might be least studied, I don't know, but is it so that the baby boomers is the biggest growing sect of medical cannabis?
I have to tell you, this is, I haven't taken a survey or done a clinical trial based on demographics for cannabis, but I can tell you, based on what I'm seeing from an enrollment standpoint on just say the DN study, for example, it is the baby boomers. I mean, I've got a big chunk of baby boomers in this study. Now, granted, the clinical trial was designed for people from the ages of 18 to 85, because we wanted to cast a wide net, because believe it or not, there's people in their 20s that have diabetic neuropathy already. And one of the other things that I wanted to dovetail in is when you said, Christina, you're studying diabetic neuropathy for clinical studies. I think also you were trying to imply that not only do we look at the primary indication in this clinical study being diabetic neuropathy, I also look at things secondarily that this compound might be helping them with. And yes, I call this a compound because it's a study drug, just like we would do in pharmaceuticals when we run clinical studies. We need to stop using terminology that's incorrect and use more mainstream medical terms if, in fact, we want this to be considered a medical treatment. We have to stop calling it weed. We have to stop calling it marijuana. We have to stop calling it these things, because also people don't use the correct terminology as far as what cannabinoids we're using. So like for the study we're doing with Xylera for the diabetic neuropathy study, it's a cannabinoid study with terpenes. It is not a medical cannabis study, but people assume because we're in the cannabinoid sector that we are in fact medical cannabis, this study, and we are not. So there's a lot of education that's needed in general for the public to understand what people are trying to do and understand the terminology and understand that we're bringing forward years of traditional pharma into this space so that we can correctly study these patients. So we're no longer doing anecdotal, oh, my grandma took this and it helped her neuropathy. Boop, it works. Sorry to go on a tangent.
Totally. But you know what? Education is what it's all about. And there's not a time where I listen to you or see you out on social media or wherever, all the different connections that I don't learn. There's always a takeaway when I listen to you, and it's just amazing. I wish that I could do what you do and go back home to the southeast of South Carolina and Georgia and spread CD. That's Christina DiArcangelo all over the, sprinkle dust, just you all over the place. I would love to educate the way that you do, to, like I said, retirement homes and whatnot. It's just amazing how you, one little person, your fairy dust is all over the place. And I'm just so proud of you and amazed of what you have done. You have built a Christina DiArcangelo empire, and wow, I'm on your train, girlfriend.
Thank you so much. And one of the things I wanted to tell you about that we haven't even discussed yet, and you probably saw one of my posts like 2 days ago saying I had an amazing day. It was like a day that I lived for. Like I was firing on all cylinders because I had but there are times when there were some things that happened this year that was more personal for me. So I had to take like little breaks here and there. And one thing I can't even talk about yet, but I will soon because you have an idea as to what I'm talking about. But 2 days ago, I came up with this idea. So you know how everybody's talking about the metaverse, right? That's how everybody's going in and they create these things, these counterparts that are themselves, they're virtual, right? And so CD could look like whatever I want it to look like. And Sylvia could look like whatever she wants in the metaverse. And it's a place for there to be safety, right? For people to be who they truly are without being bullied or picked on. So I was on I almost said the phone because I'm still old fashioned with that because, we're in Zoom all the time. So I'm so used to being on the phone. And so I was on with my team, and it was the APA team, so the nonprofit. And we were talking about how we want to do a metaverse event for APA for my dad's anniversary, his death anniversary. We're going to end up doing something because we changed the CD retreat to October now, which will be right around that time period. We did that on purpose. So what we're going to be doing is building a metaverse through our tech company, Spectral Analytics, that is it's going to be called the Patient's Paradise.
Wow.
And so just like you were saying, like getting a hold of people in Georgia and the southern states and the ability to educate, we will be able to do this with the metaverse. So you'll be able to come in with me and we could work on this together if you want, where we can really educate, like we'll do something through APA, right? Is this a good, do you like this idea?
I'm schwitzing over here.
Oh.
You have, it totally makes me cry in a happy way that you and your team and bringing on the people with the heart and the brain and the passion and the education to spread, like I said, your CD fairy dust. And I just, you are amazing. I'm surprised your head is not this big. I mean, you're just amazing.
No, I'm just a regular person. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Jump on your train.
Okay, so this is something we're going to work on. Like, swear to God, I already talked to my head of tech and I said, hey, I want to do this. And he was like, I'm so excited because I wanted to get into the metaverse. And there's no one in healthcare or biotech or advocacy that has a metaverse for patients. So this is perfect. And because Spectral is the patient enterprise with the clinical trial data capture ability, but then the telemonitoring ability to telemonitor these patients perpetually. This would give people access because we're a tech company. Then they would see, oh, if we're on the metaverse, we could open up Spectral to these patients and say, see, you can join this. It is free. And this is what will happen for you. Your doctors will be able to monitor you. We'll know what you're taking. We can fire messages from our bots to your watches, so this metaverse was just a way for us to get out there in a bigger way. And out there in a comfortable way. So people aren't afraid to talk about cannabis. They're not going to know that it could be your neighbor down the street that's in the metaverse. No one's going to know who you are. So you don't have to worry, because that's a lot of what happens with the baby boomers. They're afraid that somebody's going to figure out that they can take cannabis and want to take it because of their medical purposes. I hear it all the time from patients, and I try to help them understand this is confidential. No one's hacking into MJ Freeway, for example. That's the Pennsylvania payment processor when you buy cannabis here, right? And they're all over, the United States, MJ Freeway. Nobody's getting into MJ. So nobody's going to know. And when you come out of the dispensary, the cops aren't sitting there watching to see who's coming in or out, because that's called entrapment. APA, that if in fact you do get arrested unjustly, we have, the likes of Patrick Nightingale, who's in Pittsburgh, who fights for cannabis patients who've been wrongly accused of crimes that they did not commit. So we have people like that we could call to help you guys. So people shouldn't feel like they need to worry about stigmatization as to being able to take their cannabis. I take cannabis every day, and I don't care that people know. And I was in a custody battle
every day.
And that was, I was waiting for that to come up, like in my custody thing, because, I have a medical card. I am legal with my cannabis use. I've never put my son in harm's way or jeopardy. But you know what, Sylvia? They called Child Youth Services on me last July. They sure did. And they tried to say I was a drug addict. This is the first time I'm telling anybody this. So I have held this to my vest for a whole year. It was July 22nd of last year. This happened to me. Child Youth Services was in my house the next day. I said, come on over. Happy to talk with you. I will not do any, I've done nothing wrong.
Jaw drop.
Yep.
Jaw drop.
Yep. It happened.
Oh, as a mother of one child, one son,
yep.
And they are your whole heart, you would lay on the tracks for your son. And then
yep.
Whoever did this against you, I'm going to egg their, sorry.
No.
That's ridiculous.
No, well, you kind of know.
Knows your heart.
You know who it was. It was the other camp that did it. And so, and my attorney told me, be careful, because my ex-husband walked away from our son, sent a letter through his attorney saying he's no longer going to pick him up. He's not going to call anymore. That's it. The very next day at 9 a.m., I get a call from Child Youth Services telling me that they have received a complaint that I drive high with my son in the car and I do drugs. So I said, come over today. I have nothing to hide. I do not do drugs. I do not drink and drive. I don't do anything that's bad, like that. Like, I don't commit crimes. I have no record of having under the influence driving, etc. You know what I mean? So they came, they investigated. I explained to them the personal situation, that the day before their call to me, I had received a letter saying my ex was walking away. Then don't you think it's a little strange that now today, the very next day, you're here at my house because somebody called in a drug complaint, when I have had this child myself since his first day born, post his NICU visit that he had for 35 days. I have never had CYS called on me, but my ex-husband has, by the school, several times. So by the school, not by me, not by me. How do you like that? Because I'm a cannabis user.
No, our stories are so parallel, and our children's children will laugh at this just because it will be so bizarre and foreign to them as we live in the transition of, and, taking a baby aspirin every day is so harmful.
Yes.
Right? Oh my gosh. And it's just, as you know, it's extremely political.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy Reagan, just say no and all this stuff.
If I took opiates, would that be okay with the people who called the CYS on me? Would that be okay for me to be on opiates because of the pain I have, because of my 2 autoimmune diseases? That's okay to drive around hopped up on opiates. So I don't understand it, right? Like, don't you think that's a little freaking worse to be on opiates versus being a cannabis patient who consumes their THC at nighttime before they go to bed? Like, I'm not driving in my bed. I'm driving in my mind because I'm coming up with business ideas. You're damn right I am, but I'm not driving my car.
I tell you what, Christina, we are on the same pedestal, personally and professionally. Very, very parallel. And the CBD that strengthens our bones and everything else. And as we both agree on, it's just one word: education.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely. And you know what? I'm so glad I was able to talk to you about this thing today, because I didn't intend to talk to you about this when we came on, because we were going to talk about education. And it just popped into my head because I figured, you know what, this is a safe place for me to talk about this with you, because I know that you're not going to judge me as a parent, and I know we're aligned, with this. I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to tell you what happened last year.
Here in Colorado, there's a radio show called Moms Misbehaving, or Moms, Cannabis and Moms. And it's all about being the best parent that you can be. And cannabis and CBD, homeostasis, you can handle your 2-year-old's tantrums with ease. Right. And you're not drunk, and you're not, what's the word? You're not
impaired.
Thank you. You're not impaired. You are way more cognizant, way more conscious, way more awake, and way more capable. As I said, with the different cannabinoids and terpenes,
yep.
This one I take for replaces Adderall.
Right.
To stay focused, to stay on it. Just a little bit, you can enjoy your steak, put a little salt on it, a little garlic, and it's much more enhanced. Just when Dorothy walked over and everything became in color.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
You're right.
I'm such an advocate, and I'm such a Christina DiArcangelo. I am your number one fan. I am your number one advocate, and I am on your page, and I want to be you in the South, or in places that need more education.
Yeah.
The South is just a little bit behind. That's just the way it goes. And people my age are curious, and they do want to know how to make their elderly parents be more healthy and feel better in their mahjong, in their canasta, in their bridge, walking, like I said, emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever else, the list is long. And you bring in these studies, you probably have 18 more lined up to do.
We've got a lot of stuff going on, but yeah, we have, I mean, I can't wait. This year we're coming out, really strong this year. So I feel very blessed, like I went into this with a reason and purpose, and I'm glad to see it finally coming out, 5-6 years later.
If I could help you in any way.
Absolutely. Well, I'm serious about the
call list.
I'm serious about the metaverse. And I also want to talk to you about the CD retreat in October. So I'm going to send you a message after this. So that way we can also talk about that, because I'd like to offer you a speaking position at the retreat to speak with some of the other phenomenal ladies that I have that are my friends and colleagues since 2005 forward. So it's, I'm excited. There will be cannabis people, non-cannabis people, all the people that I work with throughout the years, kind of all coming together with an intended purpose. And that's to help women feel better about themselves and empower them and have them walk away with tools that they didn't have prior to coming, both personally and professionally. So
my flight is booked.
Awesome. So look for that email.
So there.
I'm so excited because I wrote it down while we were talking. I was like, you know what? I've moved some things around on the calendar so I can have another spot open. I just did it yesterday, swear to God. So I'll send you the details via email today. You could take a look and then we could take it from there. But seriously, I'm being serious on the metaverse. That's going to happen. We're going to do it.
I will, and I'll get my posse with me.
Awesome. Okay. Well, with that, I need to thank you so much for coming on, because we could talk forever, but we've got to keep it to 20 minutes.
Forever. Thank you so much, Christina. You are the best. I wish you luck, and call on me anytime.
I sure will. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And remember, as we always say, we are the same. I am Christina DiArcangelo. Thank you for joining us today.